In this video, we're going to tackle why people talk crap about the 372 XP XTorq. That's right. I recently got an email from a subscriber, which I'm going to touch base on this kind of stuff. But just at the beginning of this video, why do people talk so much crap about the 372 XP XTorq? All right. And is it worth building? So that's what the topic of this video is going to be. Now let's dive in just really briefly about being a YouTuber and the pains that we go through. All right. I don't get a shitload of emails, but I do get enough to where, you know, I get emails. And 9 times out of 10, if I see an email like this, I ain't even reading that shit. Okay. Because I get it. It's sent out of the just nothing but a good place, right? But you know, us guys, we have lives, and I make videos. If you and you know, I've got I don't know over 1,500 videos, something like that. And so search my channel and look for the answers that you're seeking, and ask questions on Facebook groups such as Chainsaw Addicts, because whenever you ask questions to a Facebook group, you're asking to thousands of people, and the ones who want to answer will. All right. But whenever we get direct questions like this, they're often lengthy, and I don't want to sit there and spend a half hour of my day writing out an answer just to sate your curiosity. But in this particular situation, this guy named Patrick, and Patrick has good writing skills. And that is something, maybe I'm an elitist. Actually, I'm certain that I am. But if you want to send me running to the hills, write me an email or something like that, and I can't understand what the frick you're saying. Because I tell you, if you've got 3rd grade writing skills, well, polish up on that shit. You know, because sometimes it's bad. But he's wanting to know about the 372 XP XTorq specifically. A lot of people talk shit about it. And first off, let's get this right out of the way. Why does that happen? Why are people negative on the XTorq? It's not as good. That's it. Plain and simple. There's nothing more or less that needs to be said. It isn't as good as the original. The original was not a stratified saw or a non-XTorq saw. And so it means it does not have air being injected into the upper cylinder to help with emissions. Right? It doesn't have that. The original doesn't have it. With the original, you had the 371 XP and you had the 372 XP. It changed whenever they went to 372 XP XTorq. All right. Same thing with the 365. All right. Anytime you see XTorq down there, then you know that you're getting a air injected cylinder, upper cylinder. It's very specific. It's the way the cylinder is made. And all the saws now that are coming out, pretty much all of them are it's standard fare. They have the air transfers, which is shooting air directly into your upper cylinder to help with emissions. So anyways, but they're all being developed like that, and so you don't really have a choice. But back in the day, I can't remember when they went to the XTorq exactly. I think it was around 2010, 2008, something like that. I could be wrong, but whenever they originally changed, they were just getting this stuff figured out. And so the way that they did it, they used a much bigger, bulkier, heavier piston, all right? The cylinder itself had to be larger to make room for the transfer ports for the air. And so this caused one thing right off the bat is extra weight, right? The XTorq saw versus the original saw is about a pound heavier. And what came along with that too was the piston, because it's heavier, it put more wear on the bottom end, and so you had some small bottom end failures and everything. I don't think it was too big of a deal. I'm not 100% on that, but they did at first experience some bottom end failures because of the extra weight of that piston, or at least so I've read. Honestly, I haven't experienced that myself, so there you have it. But the saw, the XTorq saw, is a perfectly good saw. So why do people talk crap about it? Because it ain't as good as the original. That's it. It's a little bit heavier, it doesn't rev as high, and it doesn't produce quite as much power. And that's it. Tends to run a little bit hotter, but that's fixed with a muffler mod, and you're going to do a muffler mod anyway. So I personally think that they're perfectly fine saws. They're perfectly good. They're just not as good as the original. That's it. That's why people hate on them constantly. All right, so let's read his very specific questions here, because he's got some good ones. Okay, number one, to get more power out of the XTorq saw, would porting be better than going with a 52 millimeter big bore kit? Please explain the reasoning behind this. And this is, it kind of makes me, it kind of makes me laugh, because it's so demanding. Anyways, but I get it. I get it. Laugh with me. It's fine. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying. All right. So, the big bore kit, 52 millimeter, don't even get it. It's not as good as the regular 50 millimeter standard kits. Now, if you're in a situation to where you have, you can still get good power. I've built them. The Christmas giveaway saw that I just built, that was a 52 millimeter, and it worked good. It wasn't an XTorq, all right? It was a standard non-XTorq saw. So, and that was a 52 millimeter big bore and got good power. It's good. Would I have gotten better power if I'd used a 50 millimeter? Yes, I believe that I would. The 50 millimeter kits are more powerful and capable of more power than the 52 millimeter kits. So, if you disagree, that's cool. That's cool. And I know that, the 52 millimeter kit that I built ran great, okay? So we are splitting hairs here. Basically, if you find one on sale, get it and have fun, bro. If you just want to try it, or if you just like the sound of being able to say that you got a big bore kit, go for it. But you're asking me, what do I think? I think the 52 millimeter kits do not produce as good of or as much as a 50 millimeter kit. So I say stick with the 50 millimeter. All right. It's because the ports get smaller. The lower transfers, the lower transfer ports, whenever you increase the diameter of the bore, you're digging into those lower transfer ports. And I feel like with 372, they got them just right. So anyways, and you got these smaller ports and a larger displacement engine. So you've got smaller ports trying to feed larger displacement. So it doesn't work very well. Next up, he says his goal is to run 32 to 36 inch bars. He wants to have the power of a 394 XP with the chassis of a 372 XP. Number two, will an aftermarket 52 millimeter cylinder work in a 372 XTorq with the XTorq stock carburetor? Yeah, if you're getting XTorq for XTorq, yeah, you don't have to change out that carburetor. The only time you have to change out the carburetor is if you go from XTorq to non-XTorq, or vice versa, And even then, the carburetor And you can do some things to keep the bigger carburetor, but again, it's not worth it. I don't think. Number 3, would deleting the base gasket, creating more compression, improve milling performance, as it would likely make a slower saw with more pull? Please explain. Anytime you give more compression, you got more power, to a point. I believe that anything above 185 pounds of compression is just a wash. You're not losing power if you have 210, but did you gain power from 185 pounds of compression to 210? It's debatable. And if you did, is it worth the extra heat gain? I don't know. Because, I mean, what makes a chainsaw cut faster? Torque? It can in certain situations, but no, it's RPM. RPM. The more compression you give it, the more you limit your RPM. But everything's a balance. I mean, I've seen some, Bobby Boucher, my 281 XP that Pat built, I bet you that thing's probably got 245 pounds of compression. And it cuts very, very well. But that's a race saw. And I think it would cut faster if I had less compression. So, see what I'm saying? But anyways. Oh, he asked too, I forgot to mention, would you have to change or modify the intake? If you're going from XTorq to XTorq, you don't have to modify anything. You're just putting a bigger piston cylinder on there. If you're going from XTorq to non-XTorq or vice versa, yes, all of the intake components, including the carburetor, need to get changed out. So the intake boot, the intake clamp, the filter manifold, the air filter, maybe the air filter could work, but the carburetor, all of it's different. From the back of the cylinder to the top of the air filter, it's all different, right? So if you're going from XTorq to non-XTorq, you have to change out with whatever you're going with. But yeah, deleting the base gasket is going to give you a little bit of extra compression. That'll probably put you right at about 170 pounds of compression, probably, which is nice, right? That's like sweet spot. That's good. That's really good. If you can get it up to 185 with just a base gasket delete, oh, that's even better. It's great, right? Number 4, using a combination of timing, porting, and or larger bore, how much horsepower is possible from a modified 372 XP XTorq? I don't know. I mean, realistically, you're probably looking 7 to 7.5 horsepower with a solid port job. I would imagine somewhere in that neighborhood. But you do the same thing to an OE, you're looking at, 7.5 to 8 horsepower. So, but I mean, would changing the XTorq crankcase to an OE make any difference or open up modification possibilities? No, it wouldn't. So the one thing that can be said though is if you were to take an OE crankcase and put an XTorq cylinder on it, it wouldn't fit. You would have to bore out the crankcase opening, right? Because the XTorq cylinder setup is larger. It won't go down on there. But you can go the other way. You can totally add a non-XTorq cylinder to an XTorq bottom end. So now, let me see. He's considering buying a ready-to-go 52 millimeter crankcase replacement from Amazon or eBay. if you do that, dude, you're not going to see any difference in power, you know. It's just that 52 millimeter versus 50. There's really no reason to do that other than you want to. As far as power goes, I think that you, at best, would be similar power. But I don't think that you would produce as much power with a 52 millimeter. So I would say that right there, just remove it from your brain, right? The questions that you want to be asking is, should you port that XTorq and keep it and love it and enjoy it? Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that it would be perfectly fine and would work out well for you if it had a good port job done to it. They run well. But are they going to run as good as the OE? No. It's not. It never will, ever. Unless you are comparing a ported saw to a stock saw. You go, my ported XTorq runs just as good as a stock original edition. Okay, I can believe that. But anything you do to that XTorq, if you did the exact same thing to a non-XTorq, it would run better. So there we go. And so, but here's what I want to point out to you. Okay. Clearly, I have lots and lots of chainsaws. All right, they're all up there on the top shelf. All right. Do I have any 372 XP XTorq chainsaws? None. No, none. I don't have any. Is that because they're bad? No. It's because I'm a freak about chainsaws and I want the best of the best. If you have those tendencies, stop what you're doing, sell that XTorq, and buy an OE. And if you're wanting to mill, I would not recommend milling with that unless what you're milling is this big. All right, milling is extremely hard on a chainsaw. And unless you're just doing little stuff like this, honestly, I wouldn't do it with 372. I would step on up to a 90cc class saw. So that's, you know, if you're milling, get a 395 XP. You say you want something that is like an in-between kind of thing, toss those out the window. Now, what you can do is you can run your 372 and you can cut with it and everything. And in the rare situation you need to mill, you just go ahead and use that. And then a year from now, if you get more serious about milling, because let me tell you, once you start milling, you realize it fucking sucks and it's hard and it's terrible to do. Okay, so if a year from now you go, I'm really loving milling, I sure do wish I could mill all this big stuff that I had, then go ahead and step up to a 395 XP. Those are my thoughts, all right? But if you don't have this crazy drive to have the best of the best kind of stuff, all right, then enjoy that XTorq. Do a muffler mod, do a base gasket delete, put it back together, and enjoy it. You know, because they're good saws. They're really good. But a guy like me, I'm wanting to get top performance out of everything every time, and just about, you know. And so I don't even want to touch them because they don't produce as much power, they're not as fast, and they're heavier than the original 372 XP. So I don't even fool with them. It's not because they're bad. It's because why buy a Dodge Stealth without the turbo? You know, I mean, why even do it? Why? I can't think of a reason. So you know, just get the one with the turbo. And I know I'm saying turbo, and John Sered says turbo. All that is marketing hoo-ha. Don't worry about that. I'm just saying the better version is the non-XTorq version. So if you're wanting the best stuff, don't waste your money on the XTorq. That's my opinion. You know, but if you're just wanting something good, then just do a muffler mod, base gasket delete, and enjoy what you got. It'll be fine, you know. But if you want the good shit, you got to get the original.